All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session of News You Can Use. And of course, I am Mya Henry, and I'm back with more information to share with you guys. So today is Friday, July 14th, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. So, of course, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the most relevant news, trends, topics, and practical tips. That way, you guys can stay ahead of the game. So let's get started and prepare yourselves for a very informative session that is going to take you to the next level. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So the first thing that I want to share with you guys, laid off Twitter software engineer calls job market hot garbage and says, maybe I should go be a firefighter. So a laid off Twitter engineer said that he's faced a wave of rejections for job applications. This person is among those seeking resources since being laid off after Elon Musk's takeover. Twitter is also facing complaints over the size of severance packages for people to let go recently. So the former Twitter employee has been struggling to land work in a hot garbage market ever since Elon Musk pushed them out. So they're one of the hundreds of former Twitter employees who have sought legal recourse over severance packages offered to lay off staff members. So they also told that the grim market for each tech job was just making them contemplate dramatically for different career options. And he said, I was sitting down earlier this week after a wave of rejections, and I was kind of like, maybe I should go be a firefighter or something because the tech jobs are just not happening. So he was just one of the people in a group of people who had sued Twitter. And the group also told California federal court that the severance packages offered under Musk leadership weren't as good as what the company had previously offered. So the other employees suing Twitter said that they'd counted on assurances by Twitter's prior leadership that the company's severance policy would stay the same after Musk took over. And Twitter's severance packages before Musk took over included 2 months of pay or more, along with other benefits, while under Musk, laid off employees have been offered 1 month of severance pay. Twitter employees had been promised that should layoffs occur after the sales of the company, they would be entitled to the same benefits and severance that employees had previously. However, following Musk's purchase of the company, Twitter backed down on that agreement. So Twitter press address and Musk Tesla and SpaceX addresses did not respond to the request for comments. So other employees also said any pay that they received in the period between when they were informed of the layoff and their official last day at the company did not count as severance pay. So the employee who had worked for Twitter in San Francisco was notified of their layoff on November 4th, but separated from the company on January 4th. And the case has since been moved to arbitration, as they are among Twitter's former employees who signed arbitration agreements when working for Twitter. And their attorney told them that she's representing more than 1,500 laid off Twitter employees in multiple arbitration cases. It would be far less expensive for Twitter to just pay employees what they're owed than to defend against all of these cases. We hope Elon realizes this soon, but if not, we look forward to taking him on in the courtroom as well as in arbitration, said the attorney. So nearly 124,000 tech employees have been laid off this year from more than 450 firms. So some companies like Uber, they're also implementing tougher performance reviews. Through the ride-hailing company, they previously said that it planned to backfill the roles of employees it cut in the process. So getting into the next topic that I want to share with you guys is how more than 85% of Silicon Valley's banks' deposits were not insured. So let me tell you guys what that means for customers. So Silicon Valley Bank was aptly named. It held the funds of hundreds of United States tech companies, and it was a crucial player in the valley's economy. But on Friday, recently, it became the second largest bank failure in the United States history after a rapid run on its deposits. So some 175 billion in customer accounts were taken over by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, also known as the FDIC, which is now tasked with returning money to the bank's customers. But more than 85% of the bank's deposits were uninsured. That's because FDIC deposit insurance is meant for everyday bank customers and maxes out at 250,000. Many Silicon Valley startups had millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars deposited at the bank, money that they use to run their companies and pay employees. And right now, nobody is sure how much of that cash is left. So the tech sector was already wading through a harsh macroeconomic climate, with layoffs abounding and stock prices sinking precipitously. Silicon Valley Bank's downfall is likely to exacerbate those problems and could threaten the wider economy. So it's like a Lehman Brothers moment for Silicon Valley. It feels like something that never should have happened because it's such a trustworthy entity. This person spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were worried about losing customers over their ties to Silicon Valley Bank. So bad bets. Silicon Valley Bank, or SVB, was founded in 1983 and it was headquartered in Santa Clara, which sits right in the middle of Silicon Valley. The bank was the 16th largest in the country and had long prided itself in its close relationship with tech entrepreneurs, and they would call themselves the financial partner of the innovation economy. The bank claimed that at the end of 2022, that nearly half of all US venture-backed startups used its services. But recently, SVB announced that it faced a liquidity squeeze and that it was holding an emergency fundraiser and selling off US government bonds at a loss to shore up its position. So this announcement caused a widespread panic across the valley, with many companies scrambling to withdraw their money before it was too late. And as fears spread, investors pulled out of bank stocks on a larger scale, with the four largest US banks losing some 52 billion in market value. So many tech leaders urged companies that banked with SVB not to panic or to withdraw their money. But the risk for these startups was too high, and a self-fulfilling bank run ensued. SVB stock price fell by 60% on Thursday, and trading was halted as well. So by midday, the FDIC had taken control of the bank. The only bank failure larger than this one in American history was Washington Mutual, which had roughly 300 billion in customer deposits before the 2008 financial crisis. Most banks, by nature, they use their customer deposits to make loans and then make money off the spread, which also allows them to earn income and their customers to earn interest. But financial institutions are currently facing a changing economic climate in which the free money era of ultra low interest rates has ended as the Federal Reserve tries to rein in inflation by making it more expensive to borrow. Some savvy seeming investments that banks made 2 years ago have since turned south. So this was a big part of SVB's problem. 91 billion worth of treasuries, which is usually a safe investment that the bank bought with the customers' deposits, had lost some 15 billion in value due to interest rates hiking up. So when interest rates rise and the money is tighter, you tend to find out who's made bad bets. You can see the bubble bursting in some of these risk assets. And over the last couple of weeks, we've been finding out which financial institutions were overexposed to them. So as SVB's failure is having an immediate ripple effects in Silicon Valley. So the aforementioned startup founder said that they began banking with Silicon Valley Bank right at their company's founding several years ago because it seemed like the de facto standard. It's been around for 40 years and it was also really well trusted entity that everyone seemed to store money on. The founder's company held off all of its assets, which were worth millions of dollars in Silicon Valley Bank. When the panic began on Wednesday, the founder began to mull over pulling their money out, but said that the process of creating a brand new business bank account would have taken several days. The FDIC said that customers will have full access to their insured deposits up to $250,000. But $250,000 is chump change compared to what most tech companies stash in SVB. They estimate that hundreds, if not thousands, of companies have millions of dollars tied up to the bank. The FDIC insurance is designed to give the everyday depositor the confidence that in a run, they can get their money back. But as we're finding out, that creates a significant problem if you're well over the threshold. The founder also says that their company is in a better position than many others because the company generates revenue and their team is only about 30 people. So with that being said, they will be able to take and make payroll for the next few months. After that, they're not so sure. And I quote, "We don't know if we're going to have a layoff or furlough employees. We don't know if we're ever going to get the money beyond the insured amount," they said. And many startups in Silicon Valley don't generate revenue at all, instead, relying on fundraising rounds from venture capital firms. So the founder also says that a common sentiment that they've heard from other tech entrepreneurs is that people are hoping for someone, whether it be the government or a bigger bank, will bail out the rest of the depositors. SVB's failure sent tremors across the banking system. Similarly sized institutions, including First Republic Bank, Signature Bank, PacWest Bank Corp, all suffered double-digit stock dips. The founder says that SVB's failure could fundamentally change the way that money flows in Silicon Valley, with people perhaps becoming more hesitant to trust smaller institutions. People would be more cautious, and that's a bad thing, they say, because if people are going to be hesitant, that means that they're going to put their money into the hands of the biggest players. So that's that. And getting to another topic is millennials to baby boomers. So why workers of all ages are adding to the labor shortage. So millions of workers of various ages have yet to return to the workforce after the onset of the pandemic. And this is a trend that could meddle with the Federal Reserve's efforts to tamp down inflation. The Bank of America Institute, a think tank that withdraws on Bank of America data, found that more than 2 million workers who should have returned back to the labor force since the onset of the pandemic, but they haven't. And many of these people are older workers who retired early, but there are also plenty of millennials and Gen Xers in the mix. When you don't have enough workers, you've got to raise the wages to attract the right type of people. So whether they will come back will be a critical component to see whether labor supply picks up in the United States. So who's missing from the workforce? So 30% of these people are traditionalists, which are people born from 1925 to 1945. 23% are baby boomers, which are born from 1946 to 1964. 13% are Gen X, born from 1965 to 1980. And 11% of these people are millennials, which are born from 1981 to 2000. Most of the prime age workers left the restaurant and retail sector and tend to be lower earners, right? So why are people not working? So the report shows that high costs for caregiving, migration trends, and long COVID could be pushing people to leave the workforce behind. So a factor that plays into this is caregiving. So about 7% of respondents of the Census Bureau latest household survey said that they would they would not be returning to work because of caregiving. So with 5% that are looking after their children and 2% are looking after elderly people. The consumer price index shows daycare and preschool costs have gone up by more than 10% since the start of the pandemic. So some working parents might have to stay away from their kind of lower wage jobs and choose to be more of a full-time parent or caregiver. Another thing that plays into factor with this is migration trends. So states with larger cities and with a high cost of living like New York City and California are seeing workers leave for a more affordable state like Florida. So those workers might have enough money saved up to work less or to stop working altogether. Health issues and other factors. So an estimated 24% of people infected with COVID-19 have experienced long COVID. And about a quarter of those workers said that the illness is impacting their ability to work. So the Bank of America Institute also says that the opioid pandemic and obesity rates also play a role into this as well. The return of these workers could help bring down wage raises and tame inflation. Issues like high childcare costs aren't going away anytime soon. So it's going to take some time to try to reverse this, and the labor market probably will still be fairly tight for the foreseeable future. So I just shared with you guys some reasons why people aren't returning to the workforce. And one of them is because people have to take care of their children or take care of their loved ones who are significantly older than them. And it's just one more reason why people should start coming on board to work with us, because here we offer a super flexible schedule. And as you're working from home, you also get to dedicate time to your kids and to your family that needs your attention, right? So another thing that I would love to share with you guys is the fantasy of a dream job is gone. So layoffs at some of the country's most prestigious companies are the latest sign that no one's job is ever really safe. So a 37-year-old from Long Island, he considered Twitter to be one of his favorite places to work. So he was employed in the engineering department there from 2012 to 2016. And that was a period of explosive growth for the tech company. And there was a sense that the company was a part of something big, so it attracted him. So the work was meaningful, the money was good, and the money was stable as well. And he also liked his boss. And along with that, there were also opportunities for growth. So after a stint at Uber, he returned to Twitter in 2020 as a product manager. So for him, he believed in the company's core values. And one of the company's core value was to communicate fearlessly to build trust. And he really enjoyed his time there. But this past November, he was one of more than 3,700 people abruptly to be laid off after Elon Musk had become the chief executive. So companies are in the business of making money, ultimately, despite whatever values they talk about or the big mission of the company. So he had spent much time of his career feeling anxious about taking time off, and he had regularly put in 12 hours daily through the pandemic. But now he decided, and I quote, "I need to approach my job with more boundaries." So if you guys saw yesterday's upload, I also said something similar. People need to stop taking their jobs so seriously when at the end of the day, it's pretty evident that to your employer, you're just a number. And despite of their core values, there's still a high chance that you're going to be laid off. So why not look into an opportunity when you can start working for yourself and not have to worry about being laid off? And here at our company, you have the opportunity to do just that. Before Twitter, he had also worked in Goldman Sachs tech division from 2007 to 2012. And you guys can also guess that he was laid off from there as well. So finance for him had been a hotbed for a certain kind of lucrative dream job. But even then, the firm regularly cut the bottom 1% to 5% of employees each year as a practice. During the Great Recession, the cuts seemed nonstop. So for him, working in finance during that period prepared him for some of the worst moments that can happen in his career. He also says that he was steeled to the idea that nothing is guaranteed. So you guys are also hearing this from someone who actually went through this themselves. It's not like the things that I'm sharing with you guys is just from the top of my head. You know, your job is never 100% guaranteed. So even so, his memories of Twitter as a special place led him back to the company. He wasn't wide-eyed about corporate interests, yet he was unsettled by how deep and unfeeling the social media platform's recent cuts were. The company paid only 1 month of severance to employees who said that they were promised 3 months as well as other payouts. A number of legal actions were initiated against Twitter related to the layoffs. Then, in February, the company laid off a product manager who was also considered a Elon Musk loyalist, who was just a few months earlier, and she had proudly tweeted a photo of herself resting in a sleeping bag on the office floor just so she can meet her deadlines at work. As a business for tech companies, this has slowed down in the recent months. Companies such as Twitter, Alphabet, which is owned by Google, Meta, which owns Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, and Microsoft have laid off more than 120,000 people industry-wide. And Meta plans to cut even more jobs following its November layoffs. So these were companies that consistently ranked high in polls of the best places to work. They offered the highest salaries, the best benefits, and a level of stability and an opportunity that wasn't available to most workers. As the wealth gap widened and the American middle class increasingly struggled, young people saw jobs like these as the path to securing a comfortable life. These also came with ample prestige. So getting into Google was harder than getting into Harvard. These were people's dream jobs. Working at Meta, people had the sense that they had made it, said Maria, who was recently laid off as a product manager leader at the company. She says, you're working at this company that so many people want to work for, and you have all these great benefits and pay. But I don't think your identity should be so closely linked to your employer, she says. Maybe that's why people feel so lost when it's taken away from them. In that vacuum, everyone's saying, I want to secure a stable job, but there's no such thing that exists. And this is the third time that Maria has been laid off in her 15-year career. The previous cuts happened in 2008 and 2020. And Maria still believes optimistically that there's something that she is meant to do. And she also believes that that's what jobs should be about, something that you can pour your heart and soul into, but it's extremely rare and most people don't know what that is. The recent layoffs came as a shock to some younger tech employees who were reminded that workers' interests come second to the company and its shareholders, that anyone's job security is vulnerable to the endless boom and bust cycles of the economy. Some people quickly found work again, but the deeper impact of the layoffs is shifting the social perception of how prestigious these jobs are now. Multiple economic traumas have seeded skepticism about how much to expect from any job. Demoralized workers in idealized jobs across industries, tech, finance, medicine, and law are rightfully interrogating the concept of a dream job, of placing that work on a pedestal. And work plays a very central role in the American dream, which at its core promotes the belief that you can labor your way toward your fullest potential. But people's hard-held faith in this concept faces existential challenges, right? So if workers are drawing firm boundaries around their personal time, if they're demanding flexibility so that they can rebalance their priorities outside of their jobs, this is why. Millions of workers were laid off in 2020, and many more continue to lose employment today in anticipation of an economic downturn due to no fault of their own. From childhood, Americans are encouraged to imagine the ideal job, to take on large sums of student debt just to stand a chance to work in the workforce and then dedicate the bulk of their time, energy, and ambition to the employers. But now, even illustrious jobs are no longer secure. So that's all the news that I have to share with you guys today. And I hope this news was really eye opening for some of you guys who are listening to this because